And we're live. Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to House of Champions. Usual friends, dropping your comments and questions in that chat. And make sure you hammer the like and subscribe buttons as we preview this week's top UEFA action in the House of Champions. Today, we got James Ben, Jonathan Johnson, Michael Hood. All the boys are here. Let's start with you, Mike. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Got some good results, very good results when it comes to the Premier League, and also some strange results around the world in football this weekend.
I see that smile on your face, and I see an even bigger smile on Jonathan Johnson right there, that little smirk. How you doing, JJ?
Hey there, guys. Yeah, doing well, thanks. As far as weekends in football go, things are pretty sweet right now if you're of a Villa persuasion like I am.
There's a reason why I'm coming to you last, James. I'm just making sure you're okay.
No, I'm fine. I'm fine. I mean, it was an interesting. You sit in Arteta's press conference after that game, and it's very obvious. And see the players after. It's very obvious that they really feel like they've blown it. They probably feel that more than they actually should.
Are those wild dreams turning to wild nightmares?
Well, I appreciate for some people it's very exciting to, actually win football matches playing horrendous football. That's in the can't last.
I raise my hand. I take that.
I mean, that's both. Yeah, exactly. That's both of you. In the end, they're still firmly in a title race, and it just means that they probably now can't afford to lose to Man City. But I don't think they ever could really. I'm sure, next week we can have a big old talk about the Premier League title race. So.
For the big watcher out there, though, for us who love the game, James is actually setting up a mouth-watering game, and every chance really of Arsenal getting the job done against City. I mean, if there is a team right now who can challenge Manchester City, I would say it's Arsenal. I mean, do you believe that?
Yeah, it's not the version of Arsenal that throws away 2-goal leads on a weekly basis. And this has been coming for a while. Even if you go back to the times they beat Fulham and they beat Leeds, they sort of took their foot off the gas a bit. And that's something they need to learn from City. But, it's good to learn these lessons whilst you still have time to make amends. And Arsenal do still have time to make amends, no matter how dreadful it might feel for them on Monday morning.
We got a few comments coming in already here. We've got Oscar. He's saying, is James Bench still a believer in Manchester City winning their first Champions League? Ali jumping in with the smiley faces right there. I like to see that one. Chelsea versus Real. Now West Ham versus Arsenal. Some good results for someone. Right, James? James, everyone seems to be coming for you this morning. What's up?
Everyone comes to me every morning. They don't like hearing. I mean, absolutely bizarre that Man City that have just. I don't know if that question was asked sarcastically, if I still believe that Man City are going to win their first Champions League. I mean, they are 3-0 up against the champions of Germany on aggregate. It seems like they're quite well placed to win their first Champions League.
All right, let's get into it, boys. James, thanks for that. I know it wasn't an easy morning for us because you knew we were going to ask the first questions to you, but we appreciate you and everything you're doing. Let's get into it. House of Champions, welcome everybody. Drop in your comments, please, as much as you possibly can. We'll get to as many as we possibly can as well. JJ, let's turn our attention to what's happening at Chelsea against Real Madrid. I mean, Real Madrid have the slight advantage, or many would say a big advantage, going to Stamford Bridge in Chelsea. I mean, from the weekend, what did we learn from Chelsea's performance against Brighton this weekend that would maybe even give us some hope, if any hope whatsoever, that they could even score a goal, let alone go through in this time?
I don't think we really learned, that much new, really. I think it was just reinforcement of many things that we've been feeling, we've been talking about now for weeks, for months. I guess if we were to have learned one thing, it's that a lot of the fans seem to, start being quite vocal now in their frustration at, just this lack of direction and general overall strategy that Chelsea have under Todd Boehly at this moment in time. But in terms of sort of this Champions League tie, really, like I've been saying, I do think that Chelsea will try and keep it more respectable, overall in terms of the tie. But for them to go and win this, I mean, I'd need the entire batch of whatever James was smoking last week when he predicted that Chelsea might come out on top of this, to feel positively for them about it. It's for me, it's about saving face now for Chelsea between now and the end of the season, and that includes the Champions League.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued to see how Reece James responds, not just from the first leg, but at the weekend. I thought he was woeful when he came onto the pitch. Looked like he didn't even want to be there. It looked like his mind may have been on this match that we're previewing for the second leg in the UEFA Champions League, and looked like he was still rattled by what he experienced against Vinicius Jr. because Mitoma put him to the cleaners. James was at the heart of giving the ball away, heavy first touches. He has to be the one who gets it correct on both sides of the ball for Chelsea to have any chance, because that is a tall order. Vinicius Jr. is going to be well rested. Didn't get that much. I don't even think he played at the weekend in the 2-0 win for Madrid against Cadiz. That is the matchup for Chelsea if they're going to have any chance. And up top, the question mark still remains. Who is going to get that goal? I mean, Conor Gallagher, hey, he's scoring more goals than Kai Havertz, but I think you have to start Kai Havertz to have any chance. I hate to be the guy to say it, but you have to start him.
I think you've pretty much taken a question away from me that I was going to ask James here. I mean, how does Frank Lampard approach this game, James? Because obviously it is a big ask. You need to score goals. But in Champions League nights, especially at a bridge, anything can really happen. We know Frank's history in this competition. If Chelsea put out a good performance with the top players that they have, there's no doubt that Real Madrid have shown a vulnerability this season that they can concede goals.
Yes. I mean, they certainly can concede goals. I think, Mike really hit the nail on the head there. Vinicius Jr., I mean, Chelsea had sort of what you would think was the sort of perfect matchup for him. Reece James at wing back with Wesley Fofana behind him and N'Golo Kante alongside him. And they had no answer for Vinicius. And like Mike says, this is a player that can take the game away from anyone. He was magnificent. Going forward, I just don't know. I want to sympathise with Frank Lampard, even though, from these first 3 games are much worse than the 3 games under Graham Potter beforehand. They're not creating shots. They're not creating chances. Equally, I think it's probably very hard when you take over to really fathom out what sort of squad you're supposed to name and what sort of 11 you're supposed to name, given the players you have. It's absolutely... It's a completely imbalanced squad. When you're saying where do the goals come from, where do the chances come from? The honest answer is I don't know. Lampard doesn't know. I don't get the sense Chelsea know. It's probably not coming from Conor Gallagher, who is an energetic, hard-working player that kind of suits a 4-3-3. I mean, we've got the stats up there. Kai Havertz has got 9 goals. I went back to the start of Frank Lampard's first time in charge. The second highest scorer, the third highest scorer is Christian Pulisic. Tammy Abraham is the second highest scorer. There is no one in this squad and Tammy Abraham was there a season and a half. There's no one in this squad who can convincingly put the ball in the net. I maintain that I was right that Chelsea had a chance because actually N'Golo Kante and Enzo Fernandez played early on really excellently and kind of wrestled some control out of the midfield. If Kovacic hadn't delivered one of his worst performances in a Chelsea shirt, Chelsea could really have dominated midfield. But when you've not got anyone that can kick a football into a net, it's very hard to win football matches. That's the sort of top level analysis that people come to House of Champions for. Chelsea can't put the ball in the net, and therefore they don't have a chance. I think Madrid will just throttle them in this game and ease to a 1-0 or something like that.
Well, I mean, listen, obviously, if you look at the odds, there is plus odds for Real Madrid actually to win on the money line here, Mike. And that's not far-fetched, really. If you think of the performance that Real Madrid put in last time, and over the 2 legs last time out in the Champions League between these two sides, there was goals galore. This time around, we might be looking at an under here. I mean, we could see maybe 1 or 2 goals win this game. Maybe we see Real Madrid being the team that puts out the performance and gets the victory in here.
Yeah, this is the Madrid side that will have a ton of confidence coming to England because they have a striker who loves to play against Premier League clubs. Did it last year in the run into a Champions League title, has already done it in the previous round against Liverpool. Yes, Kareem the Dream, making dreams for Real Madrid and the entire fan base. He will be licking his lips to go against a very feeble Chelsea back line. Wesley Fofana, if Frank Lampard has any sense in the first leg, James, I think you called it out to a T in the group chat that Fofana, he looked shaky. He did not look up to the level of a Champions League knockout tie. I think that will be a mismatch. But if there's any player who could settle that back line, Thiago Silva, I mean, the guy blocked a shot, a surefire goal off the line. He will have to have the game of his life in his late 30s, mind you. He will have to have the game of his life to keep out Madrid's attack.
But Fofana has been really good. This is sort of the challenge that Lampard and anyone has, is when everything around you is so unstable, when there's no sort of defined system, no defined start strongest 11 or strongest 8. It's really hard to get that level consistently. And I think that's, Fofana has seemed like an absolute rock for Chelsea for weeks on end. But when everything changes around you, how on earth are you supposed to replicate those performances? As well, you guys know.
Yeah, I mean, I think sort of going back to before the first leg, I think I was saying that if Chelsea start strongly and take Real by surprise, Real would react a bit stronger. And I kind of feel that happened in what James was talking about, where, Conte looked a lot more solid in that midfield, looked a lot better for having him there than maybe they expected. And when Real, at this moment in the season, we've talked about how they sort of pick and choose the games that they're going to perform in. When they come up against a team like that, they recognize that they're up against legit opposition, and start to put in their A game, which is why we saw them pull away in the second half. And I feel like, perhaps Chelsea's best hope coming into this game is to actually not be that convincing at the very start. And that way, I think it lulls Real into a bit of a false sense of security, because they have to feel challenged in order to put in their best performances, I feel. And, coming into this with a handsome lead up against a team that looks absolutely hapless under Lampard at this moment, it could be that, Real maybe get to halftime at 0-0, and suddenly Chelsea really feel like they have a chance, like if they can get that goal early in the second half, to maybe, force this beyond 180 minutes of the two legs.
Ed jumping in and saying, imagine where Chelsea would have been without those 10 points from Tuchel, with the little smiley emoji. Matt Osman jumping in and saying, bring back Potter. He also says Lampard is out of his depth again, and there's our Vic. Keep those hopes alive. Good luck to you, Vic. Let's move on to the game between Napoli and AC Milan. Listen, real quickly before we get into this game, our producer Des obviously wants us to talk about what's happening with Serie A, and the Italian team's doing pretty well in this competition. Once again, Napoli against Milan. One of the teams are going to go through here. Of course, it looks like Inter will go through as well, but it's really sort of been somewhat of a resurgence for Italian football. And there's a bit of a competition, obviously, at the top of the table, outside of Napoli for European places. James, you're shaking your head right there. But it's good to see Italian teams having success in this competition and UEFA in general this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's good for Italian teams and it's good for European football, because, anything that sort of eases the stranglehold of the Premier League is welcome. But let's not get carried away at all here. Inter Milan have had two pretty favourable draws. Certainly Benfica maybe haven't lived up to the level we thought they would, based on their group stage performances. AC Milan had the dream draw in the round of 16, getting a Tottenham side in disarray. Napoli are a great team, and they've shown that in Serie A, and they've shown that in Europe, showed that in the group stages. But that's all this really is, at least on the Champions League level. It's favourable draws, and it's too easy to draw conclusions from those draws, so to speak. So look, next season the Premier League will have some half decent representatives, and I don't think we'll be talking about a renaissance in Italian football.
So you're still believing Villa are going to get into the Champions League? Is that what you're saying, Ben?
If Villa get into the Champions League, which won't happen unless there are bizarre points deductions, if Villa get into the Champions League, they won't get to the Europa League. Cut that, James. Cut that.
We'll cross this bridge when we come to it.
I want that posted in July when we're short on content. If Villa get in the Europa League group stages, they'll be playing in the Conference League.
Matt is coming after you as well here, James. Matt saying, favourable draws. Are you sure? Inter were in the group of death. Give them credit where they deserve. Mike, let's get into it.
Yeah, no,
James.
I think...
I think you've had your say. It's Mike's turn now. Come on.
Look, I'm all for this renaissance. I said it after the Europa League recap we did last week. This is a breath of fresh air. When Serie A was the dominant force in world football and club football, it was because of not just Italian talent, but foreign influx of talent. Shevchenko, George Weah. I mean, household names. You have influx of talent happening at Kim In-jae. He's South Korean. He's playing in Serie A, developing and really growing as a footballer. Kvaratskhelia, Victor Osimhen. Yes, they all play for the same team.
Tammy Abraham.
You look at Rafael Leao, Tammy Abraham. I mean, the names keep on going in Serie A, and I love this. I love this very much. And hey, Premier League, I'm a big Prem fan, but sometimes just need a waft of something new. It holds Premier League clubs and the big boys accountable, I think, when you have results like this.
James,
Yeah, just one thing. I really like Mike's point, but it almost, I think, makes the argument for why Serie A is nothing like the league it was. Because the players you've reeled off there, Mike, your Shevchenkos, Ronaldo's, though Nedved's, they were the best players in the world. They were the Ballon d'Or winners. Like, Kvaratskhelia aside, there is no one in Serie A who you would make the case as a potential Ballon d'Or winner. And if they're going to win the Ballon d'Or, they're going to have to go elsewhere. I mean, it is brilliant for Serie A that it has kind of developed from a bit of a backwater into the place that young stars go. But it's young stars go before they make their moves to the top two in Italy or to the Premier League, frankly.
Similar, they've taken that model from the Bundesliga, James, because Bundesliga has actually fed into the fact that they are the league to create the stars, and then the stars disappear and go play in the Premier League or move to Barcelona and Real Madrid or PSG. James has got a smile on his face. All right, we got to get back to this game. JJ, let's talk about Osimhen. He's back now. Obviously, he's going to be a key factor into Napoli's focuses to try and get back in this tie. I mean, this is a really difficult one to predict. Milan got a massive win there most recently, but I don't know if that helps them going into this tie. What's your thoughts?
I think the thing that helps Milan coming into this tie the most are the players that won't be there for Napoli. I think Anguissa is majorly underrated as part of that midfield. And I think, not having Kim in the back line as well, you take that out, that's two massive cogs in this, team that Luciano Spalletti has created and had so well oiled up until now. But I take it back to the point that I was making last week, having, covered the game for the live blog. The thing that I'd be worried about the most for Napoli was sort of the mental frailty that you could see. And it's almost like the weight of expectation is a little bit too much, because I think Napoli coming into the tie have been judged sort of on how far ahead of Milan they are in the table. Yet, Milan have showed that they have this appetite in recent weeks to try and knock Napoli off of the perch. And they're not going to be able to do that in Serie A this season, but they will absolutely be able to do that in the Champions League and knock out those hopes and set up a Milan derby in the semi-finals. And I think that's exactly what is driving this Milan side at this moment in time. There's big pressure on Napoli to live up to those expectations. The months that we've spent talking about them being the form team, not just of Serie A, but in Europe as well. And I think that's suddenly starting to tell, because despite the fact that they have been brilliant on the pitch and they really, truly have at times been scintillating, it feels like they're one or two players away from not quite having the strength in depth in order to compete on all of those fronts. And now, unfortunately, having missed Osimhen in the first leg, they'll have him back for the second, but they're missing two key players. And I think that's going to be very difficult to compensate for. I have personally picked a draw in this one, which obviously would see Milan go through. I do think it'll be really, really tight. But for me, I just feel like the opportunity is now too good for Milan. And looking at the way that they split Napoli open on the counter-attack in that first leg, it's exactly what you need to do to them again in the away leg.
Yeah, I almost called you James. Jeez, now I've got to look at my cup of coffee to see what.
Just call him Jimmy.
Yeah, no,
Jimmy
great points. Great points, JJ. I want to answer Deontay's question. Deontay says, if Napoli fail to make the semifinals of the Champions League, would that be considered a failure, given the high standards placed on them throughout the season? Well, let's go back to the start of the season when we were looking at who was going to get out of the group stages, who was going to get to this point in the Champions League. If any of us had said Napoli, I'm calling bullshit on that, because there's no chance in hell that any of us thought that they would be.
I had Rangers going through the group.
Hey, Ian, please send me whatever you're drinking, because I need that to get through my days throughout the week. But I don't think that it would be a failure. This is a dream season for Napoli. What they're doing in their league campaign, what they've done up to this point, is an inspiration for world football. And I just don't think that we can categorize that a failure. I think a disappointment would be the right word, because there is high expectations. There is high standards that they've created for themselves. I mean, Victor Osimhen, injuries, suspensions, that has been the thing. And if they do not get through this tie, that will be the thing that we will look back. And Ian, James, JJ, how many times have we talked about this and asked the question week in and week out? Should Spalletti rotate the team? When is it going to cost them? International breaks, the load buildup from, world competition, World Cup, etc. We're seeing now that the timing of being without your key players, that can be the one thing. It's not football on the pitch. It's the timing of being without your key players that can be the X factor that derails you.
Yeah, you never know. And just briefly coming back to that question that we were asked there, I mean, I have to say, I think the question is nonsense. It is a failure if Napoli don't win Serie A from here. That is a failure in much the same way that, let's put an Arsenal perspective on this. If they finish second, it's not a failure. If they finish fourth, it's a failure based on where they are. But you have to be able to balance what you expected at the start of the season and where you are and kind of come to an understanding. Just one thing, I'm a little bit more bullish on Napoli than most, mostly because, watching that first leg back, it felt so difficult for Kvaratskhelia to do much when Napoli could just show him down the outside and tell him, not when Milan could show him down the outside and tell him, hit crosses to Elmas and whoever.
But he missed a great chance after like 60 seconds.
Yeah, but it's just one chance. It's not, that's not the whole story of the game. That's the story of one chance. Over the course of the game, what Milan did really well was block up that inside channel, kind of refusing to allow him to shoot, refusing to allow him to run into the box and say, go down the byline, see what you can do. Now, going down the byline is a lot more dangerous. Putting crosses in is a lot more dangerous if Osimhen is, the dominant presence that he was before this injury. If that works, then Kvaratskhelia can beat you both ways, and we'll see the version of him that we've all been trolling over all season. So if Osimhen is there, really, I think Napoli win this and go through.
All right, let's get a quick prediction from both games, James. We'll start with you here. Chelsea against Real Madrid, Napoli against Milan. James, Mike, then JJ.
Yeah, Chelsea 0, Madrid 1. Don't watch this game. I think I'm going to be at it. Napoli 3, AC Milan 1, but after extra time. I think this is going to be one of the best games in the competition this season.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I'm going to repeat of the first leg. I think 2-0 Madrid. It's going to feel like it's 6-0 because of the show they're going to put on at Stamford Bridge. Don't see Chelsea doing much in the attacking department. The woes continue. And for Napoli, I'm going a draw. I think Napoli get that first goal, but the way that Rafa Leao and Brahim Diaz are playing against Napoli, I think they get a goal.
I'm going for 2-1 Real. I don't know what I was thinking, suggesting that Chelsea would score a goal, but here we are. And for Napoli-Milan, I think that Milan are going to snatch an equalizer late on and advance 2-1 on aggregate.
All right, I'm going for Real Madrid to get the win comfortably here. I'm going for 3 goals for Real Madrid once again here. I have no idea if Chelsea are going to score or not. I hope they get the first goal and make this game interesting. And then I'm going for Napoli to go through on the tie, winning by 2-0. Just a guess. All right, quick break from us and more to come from the House of Champions boys when we turn our attention to Wednesday's fixtures next.
Italy's best clubs and brightest stars bring show-stopping skills and unbelievable thrills in the fight to the finish for the Scudetto. Stream every Serie A match live on Paramount+.
If you're a US-based fan of the beautiful game, Paramount Plus is an absolute must-have subscription from NWSL to the Champions League to Serie A and so much more in between. Not sure if it's for you? You can try 1 month for free by using the code NWSL2023. Welcome back into House of Champions. Ian Joy, Jonathan Johnson, Michael Lahoud, and James Benge as we turn our attention to Wednesday's games. We're going to fire through them pretty quickly because JJ's on his way out somewhere in Paris. So Bayern Munich, Man City, City with a comfortable lead going into the second leg. Inter Milan, Benfica is the other one we'll turn our attention to. But we begin, JJ, with Bayern Munich against Manchester City. Obviously Bayern Munich getting a 1-1 at the weekend. Not great preparation going into this game. Obviously with a punch into the mouth of Leroy Sané and Mane being suspended. Manchester City, business as usual. How you seen this game playing out?
Well, first of all, I don't take very kindly to being, put out as the scapegoat of the guy who has to duck out early when I know that at least one other person in this group also has a hard out as well. But no, for this one, I can see... I think Bayern are going to keep it tighter than they did in Manchester. That's not hard. It was a complete blowout at times. But equally, Tuchel has so much more work ahead of him than I think many of us thought when he took over. Winning that game against Borussia Dortmund, wresting back control of the Bundesliga title race, yet suddenly to crash out in the DFB Pokal. Things haven't quite been going according to plan. And then you have, this altercation between Mane and Sané. Suddenly it seems like, there's much more of a challenge, than maybe we first thought. And, maybe you were right all along that there is really something deep-rooted quite wrong with Bayern Munich. But no, for me, in terms of this game, I think that Bayern will keep it tighter. I still see City winning and, emerging quite comfortably as winners on aggregate.
Certainly with JJ there, I don't like him being smeared with the "we have to depart early" tag when a certain host is so infrequently even available in the first place. And when he is there, he can never get
Jeez.
out of it quick enough, Having said all that, the only thing I think is of interest here is whether or not Erling Haaland can break yet another record that was supposed to be beyond the reach of anyone, certainly of mere mortals. Cristiano Ronaldo scored 17, if I remember rightly, 17 goals in the Champions League in 14-15, whatever year it was. Haaland has 11, which he has from having missed 2 games entirely and only played 45 minutes in the other. And although there's not a huge amount of time left to catch up Ronaldo, at the rate he's scoring, he actually would, if he played 360 minutes, he'd smash it and end up on 19, which is just ludicrous.
Isn't he a goal away from Van Nistelrooy's record as a Premier League player as well? I think Van Nistelrooy has 12 from like the early 2000s.
Yeah, and he's already obliterated Van Nistelrooy's record for the fastest to 30. These are like, and this time it does feel like these records might never get broken again, because obviously, as JJ elucidated there, there's so much for Tuchel to do. I think to an extent, even though it's 3-0, this is the Allianz Arena, this is Bayern Munich, they're going to feel like they have to, for a while, go for this game. And that means leaving Upamecano and De Ligt to defend Haaland and giving City opportunities on the break, which no one gives them anymore because Haaland is a one-man goal on fast breaks. I think Haaland's going to get a few goals. And I know you said this after the first leg, Ian. I think this could get quite rough for Bayern.
Yeah, I think for Bayern, what doesn't give me as much confidence as I had going into this tie is there's issues at the front end and there's issues at the back end. Let's start with defensively. Watching them defend, they haven't had a shutout since they blanked PSG 2-0 at home in the Champions League in the second leg. They leak goals, and I think that gets smeared and covered up with their ability to grind out results in the Bundesliga. But they're not even getting goals consistently in the Bundesliga now. And if there's cracks in the pavement and the plaster that you're using to cover up those cracks is not working anymore, then the cracks become damn near earthquakes. And that's what we're seeing. It's a seismic shift in Bayern Munich's ability to cover up what the issue is. Serge Gnabry was used as a striker in the first leg. I don't think that's their answer, but who knows what the answer is? Do you put Thomas Muller as the striker? Germany did it. Didn't work for them. So that is what they have to figure out in this second leg.
Chupo on one leg, no?
Shit. I'd take him over Gnabry. And what for Gnabry, you see a player who he's getting so close, but it's an attacker who's trying to score so hard. It's just like that effort where you're trying so hard and it's not going in, so you're going to try harder. For attackers, there's a flow to scoring goals that needs to come. Defensively, Jan Sommer. What I saw at the weekend, he's a goalkeeper that's playing very skittish. I think that could be a factor as well.
Just recently, he's been playing skittish his whole career, by the way. But also, if you look at Bayern Munich statistics, just recently I had a quick look at it. The goals are obviously spread around right now because they don't have that goal scorer that they can rely on to put 20 Bundesliga goals in a season. They don't have that double-figure goal scorer in the Champions League that they relied so much on with Lewandowski. It just goes to show you that Lewandowski and all the previous strikers that Bayern have had in their generation, that's where their focus is. Chupo's not the answer, but little did we know how important Chupo is for this Bayern Munich side. He's been playing very well, and he obviously gives them a better opportunity to win games. Since he's been out the side, Bayern not as dangerous in that penalty area. And the other players around him, a lot of pressure on their shoulders to step up in big games. I'm just really pissed off with what happened in the Bundesliga this weekend. I mean, what an opportunity for Borussia Dortmund, who just apparently don't want to win the league at all. They just want to give it away to Bayern Munich. So that's annoying to me as well. And that also comes into the factor why Bayern Munich might struggle in the latter stages of the Champions League. It's a less competitive domestic season, and therefore, they're drawing games and still going to win the league. There's no real pressure until you get into the Champions League knockout stages, which I think is desperately disappointing. All right, we got to move quickly here. Inter Milan against Benfica. I'll come to you, Mike, on this one here. Inter, first leg. What did we learn from them? Because domestically, they've not been great recently, but what a victory that was in Lisbon against Benfica. What did we learn from that first leg that you think they can take into the second leg, and what are you expecting?
That Andre Onana is one of the best goalkeepers in the UEFA Champions League in the knockout stages. I think that was cemented again. He is so good when he is focused, when the off the field stuff. He's playing like the Onana that played at Ajax during their fairy tale run to the Champions League semifinals when they were a complete team. This was an Inter side in the first leg that put a complete team performance together from front to back. The front two of Lautaro Martinez and then Dzeko, they are not even the most dangerous two in attack. Nicolo Barella, he has been one of their darlings of the season. When he's dynamic in midfield, making those late runs out of midfield, that gives them a different edge. Henrik Mkhitaryan was so good on both sides of the ball, and that tees things up for Romelu Lukaku to come off the bench and do what he's been doing as of late. He's been getting a lot of criticism. I know the racism stuff, still pissed off about that, but his ability to, in high-pressure situations, give them the strength and physical presence in attack, I think that gives them a bit of an edge. And for Benfica, what a horrific time to be losing your way. This is a Benfica team that was scoring goals left and right, but Gonzalo Ramos, he seems like a player who is not getting the service. I think they're a team that's trying to walk the ball into the back of the net. They tried that in the first leg, and it was much ado about nothing in the final third.
I think for me, when I look at Inter Milan, they tend to react best when Simone Inzaghi's managerial future is under threat, which it is coming into this game. I was surprised pleasantly by them in the Champions League first leg against Benfica, and very underwhelmed by Benfica as well. So for me, I think that this one's going to be tight. I think I actually have it down as a draw, so Benfica doing a bit better than they did in the first leg, but still Inter doing enough to advance, and ultimately in my predictions set up that AC Inter semi-final.
All right, let's get to a quick break. When we come back, we'll discuss what's happening in Europa League.
Phenomenal! Absolutely magisterial here! Artilharia do Campeonato Brasileiro! Golpista ancora! Golazo!
All right, let's rapid fire through everything that's taken place in the Europa League and the Europa Conference League. Mike and James, let's get into it. Sevilla against Manchester United. 2-2 the score is currently. Sporting Lisbon against Juventus. Juve with that slight advantage, 1-0. Roma against Feyenoord. Feyenoord somehow got the victory in that first leg. And Union Saint-Gilloise and Bayer Leverkusen tied at 1. Somehow Leverkusen got back into that game and managed to get the draw. Now, going forward here, Mike, I'm sure you didn't expect this one to be tied at 2-2 when you were going to Sevilla. Much more difficult in the second leg. I still have United as a favorite to go through in this tie. Do you?
I feel much better about it, given what I saw at the weekend. Very commanding performance. And I know it's Nottingham Forest, but the City Ground is a difficult place to go. The left back situation, Diego Dallo looked like a natural filling in at left back. Does Ten Hag keep him there? Because he is an attacking threat going forward. For United, this is such a chess match. Sevilla, I think this is the type of game that when you're even going to their home stadium that you can get trapped into. El Nassiri, this guy is such a difficult striker to compete with. So good in the air, feeds on scraps. The longer the game goes 0-0, I think, obviously, it favors Sevilla because they will do a 1-0 job, defend for their lives, and equal out. If United get that early goal, first half performance, I think that's where the key is for United.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a real loss for them. You know, it looks like Marcel Sabitza's not available. Obviously, having the likes of Casemiro and Eriksen, it's a little bit more livable with. But it just feels at the moment like United can't quite keep their key cogs fit for long enough to achieve much. That's got to be a bit of a worry. I think, Mike really explained very well there that Sevilla, now they've beaten Valencia, I think they can give this competition a little bit more of a swing. They look like they should be okay in terms of avoiding relegation from La Liga. I just find this one really tough to call. If Anthony Martial is the player that we've seen of late in the last few weeks, I'd fancy Manchester United to deliver. If Anthony Martial is the player we saw on loan at Sevilla, you don't quite see where the goals are coming from. He's been massive in terms of convincing United supporters, skeptics like me, and I have been a skeptic, that there is life beyond Marcus Rashford's hot streak. And if he keeps his form up, United will be fine, I think. Although you basically do have to score two, because without Varane and Martinez, I'm pricing in a Sevilla goal, that's for sure.
Producer Des putting in the rundown here, Sevilla's domination of English sides in Europe here, how they have fared over the last 8 ties. They have had 8 ties altogether and won 6 of them, which is quite an incredible.
Not West Ham, though.
Quite an incredible achievement regardless, though, especially when it comes to this competition. They have so much success. Rapid fire here. Mike, let's go to Sporting Lisbon against Juventus. Juve lost again at the weekend there. Sporting Lisbon, I mean, this is a big, big game for them. Tough ask here for Juve now.
Yeah, and I think Sporting Lisbon will feel very high on their chances. I mean, they've already gotten some major wins in European competition in the Champions League. That front three of Trincao, Marcus Edwards, and who knows who he starts up top. But I think Juventus, what I saw at the weekend was just another stale performance. There's been one too many stale performances. They are so reliant on the magic of Angel Di Maria. If he cashes in, then Juve go through. If he doesn't, then Sporting Lisbon, I favor them to go through in this tie.
All right, James, before we do move on to what's happening with Leverkusen and Union Saint-Gilloise, producer Des has also got an awesome video here of Allegri, by the way. This was unbelievable. I don't know if you saw this reaction from the game at the weekend there. Now, I was trying to figure out what it was, if it was a substitute not being ready or if he was just losing his temper or what the hell it was. But he was furious. He had to go sit down and take a minute to calm himself down at one point here. I thought he was going to...
It's so sad seeing this. It feels like he's put the trajectory of Italian managers back 25 years. This is back to the glory days when every Italian manager was a psychopath on the touchline. Roberto De Zerbi, has worked so hard to convince people he's chill. Maurizio Sarri as well. And here's Allegri just going absolutely mad in that first leg. I think it's easy to see why, though, because this is a sporting team that drive their opposition mad. We've seen that against English teams. We've seen that against some really top level opposition across the first leg. Des is telling us it's from the first leg when Paredes couldn't come on the pitch because he gave his jersey away. Can I throw out a thing here? I don't know if this is anything like it is in the Premier League, but there is this disease in English football right now where children turn up to football matches with their little crummy homemade signs. Go and get it done professionally. Begging for the football shirts of professional footballers. Give me your shirt. I despise it. And I think if that's actually why Allegri's got angry, because he's seen one of these obnoxious, odious little wretches demanding Paredes' football shirt. I mean, why on earth would you ask for Paredes' football shirt? I've gone off on a tangent here, but I'm really enjoying my tangent. These children should get lifetime bans from Stadia, and that's a proper lifetime ban. That is stretching into the 2080s, the 2090s. I don't ever want them again. And once you do that, let's see how many kids are brave enough to hold up a sign saying, Mason Knight, can I have your shirt? Get lost. Sporting are really good. It's interesting that they drew 1-1 with Aruca. Sort of felt like that Ruben Amorim has really put his eggs in this Europa League basket, and rightly so, because they are a team that could go and win the whole thing. Was that what you were after?
Quick prediction from the other games. Roma, Feyenoord, Union Saint-Gilloise, Leverkusen. Prediction, Mike?
I pick Leverkusen to go through. That front three, Wirtz, Diaby, too good. The fact that they got that goal is massive for them. And I still like this Feyenoord team. I know we don't give them enough credit. I think that they will go through against Roma. Paulo Dybala, the question mark over his health, big factor for them in the final third. So Feyenoord and Leverkusen.
I like Mike's view on Feyenoord, and I think he's right, although it's Mourinho, isn't it? It's hard to bet against Mourinho when his team is actually quite good. And it's also hard to bet in favour of Leverkusen, as you well know, Ian. I mean, there's a reason they're called Leverkusen. Saint-Gilloise continue to surprise me. I can't say I'm like Shaquille O'Neal. I'm sorry, I wasn't familiar with their work, but I'm very, very impressed. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say they go through.
Wow.
Leverkusen unbeaten in 11 games now. Xavi Alonso doing a great job.
11 games that don't hugely count, except the Europa League ones.
Quick rapid fire through the Europa Conference League here. We've got Alkmaar, Anderlecht with a 2-0 advantage. Fiorentina against Lech Poznan, 4-2 advantage from the first leg. Nice Basel is tightly tied at 2-2. And West Ham and Ghent tied at 1-1. Just rapid fire through them all here, Mike. What catches your attention? Who are you expecting to go through?
Two teams I'll keep an eye on is Fiorentina. What they've done since the World Cup break, they are a team that's playing with a lot of confidence, scoring a lot of goals, and they are my favorite, part of the Italian Renaissance, and also Nice. Mofi. This guy is a killer in the box. If those two get through, it's going to be a hell of a matchup in the next round.
Yeah, I mean, West Ham, for all their travails in the Premier League, they could be back-to-back European semi-finalists, and they weren't great against, but they weren't bad either. And that's a good team that they've earned a 1-1 draw away from. I think having the atmosphere just exploded at the London Stadium on yesterday. And I think that ground, it's never going to be. You're never going to confuse it with Anfield, and you're never going to confuse it with the best stadiums in the world. But on those European nights, those West Ham fans really love it, and I think that could be the 12th man that takes them to a European semi-final. And I don't know what the paths are, but this has turned into a really fun little competition. And the likes of West Ham, Fiorentina, and maybe Nice or Anderlecht vying for a trophy. This is great. I mean, that's a load of fan bases there that would never have got one otherwise, and it would mean a lot for. So. Yeah, bring on the Conference League. I'm off Europa League now. I'm all about the Conference League. Nicer trophy.
James, we've got a couple of great comments for you here. Rafa jumping in saying that he's with you. He says ban those kids as well. And then we've got a nice one here for you from Ed. He says, something tells me that James missed out on getting a few shirts because of those kids. Which is an interesting thought, right there.
My problem is I'm sat in the press box and trying to get a good angle of a view of everything that's happening. And you can't see it over these obnoxious little wretches who are putting their cardboard signs right in your viewing angle.
I don't know how to...
People love free shit, James. People love free stuff.
All right? Buy a shirt.
You should see my wife when we go anywhere and they're doing those giveaways. If you're at like an NBA game and they're using a fire gun to fire a t-shirt up, like she will literally beat kids down to try and get a free t-shirt.
That's awesome.
Boys, great work as always. We appreciate you, and Jonathan Johnson as well. Have a great night today. There's some great games taking place. Actually a really interesting one. If I don't mind, I know I'm the master of stretching a show here, but Leeds against Liverpool is a great game for me. I mean, this is a tough game for Liverpool. I don't care anyone says here, but this is a massive game for Leeds United. Which way are you thinking this one's going to go? Seeing as though you're hanging a Leeds flag scarf behind you there, Michael. You first.
Oh man,
resident Leeds fan.
Yeah, I know. Just keep the piles of poop just coming my way. I think that Liverpool, you never know what you're going to get from them. It's been a nightmare season for them throughout the season. If there's ever a time to catch Liverpool, I think it's now for Leeds. It's do or die. Couple good results as of late. I think this could be another one a feather in their cap. So I'm picking Leeds.
Oof. No, I don't think Javi Gracia has solved any of the problems that Jesse Marsch had, which were the problems that Marcelo Bielsa had. They are still the glassiest of glass jaws in the Premier League. There's no team that responds to adversity in a worse fashion than Leeds. There's no team that if you go 1-0 up against them, you can price in the second and the third quite soon after. I would be quite worried about it, Leeds. I certainly think that I would expect kind of likes of Everton sooner or later to leapfrog over them. Leeds going to really miss Tyler Adams for the remainder of this season. I think without him, they look like a team that you can bully, which was not the case in that first season in the Premier League.
Oof, I don't know. This one's a close one to call, especially with the way Liverpool are playing right now. This one, that atmosphere, it's a little bit of a rivalry there. This one might have a few red cards in it. Let's hope it does. Boys, appreciate it as always. Premier League at the beginning, Premier League at the end with a little Champions League in the middle. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. We appreciate you always. Thanks to everybody for the comments. Please make sure you're continuing to do so. We'll be back again on Tuesday, post the Champions League games at 5 p.m. Eastern. Thank you to everybody out there for watching, but also for listening to House of Champions. Take a minute to leave us a rating and a review in your favorite podcast platform. Available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and anywhere else you listen to your podcast. We're also available as video, so subscribe to us on YouTube. House of Champions signing out. Thanks so much to the boys. Thank you so much, Mike. Thank you so much, James. Enjoy your day. We'll see you post games 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday. See you, everybody.